Okay.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. Time now for the events calendar, and I am proud to say that Conrad's got it together over there, and he is going to give us the events calendar.
At least one of us has it together today. So tonight, Nifty 50s is on. Remember, Randy Shannon and the whole Nifty 50s crew have gone to every other weekend. Tonight, it's on up at Grogan's Mill. And that's 5 to 8. Also, Saturday night tonight at 6 p.m., the Northside Mustang Club is going to be meeting at Freddy's Steak Burgers in their monthly cruise in Magnolia. At 6 p.m. is the Kima Car Show and Meet, and that goes on pretty much every Saturday. Tomorrow, the Deputy Keith Barillas benefit is in New Caney, and that starts at 12 p.m. at noon. At 4 p.m., the All-American Muscle Car Meet at Kroger's on 99, which is east of 45. At 5 p.m. is the Burger and Fries car, truck, and bike show, also in New Caney. So a couple of things going on in New Caney this weekend. And then tomorrow night.
It's the hot center of the world.
The hot
New
center.
Caney, Texas, ladies and gentlemen.
You ever fly over it?
I'm sure.
Didn't notice when
No.
you did. And then Sunday night is Freddy's at 1960 in Eldridge. That's classic, Showplace Classics car meet, and they have a meet they have meets all around town. Wednesday night is going to be Showplace Classics at Freddy's Steak Burger in Katy, and then every Friday night is Freddy's Steak Burger, and that's at Kirkendall in 2920.
So apparently Freddy's Steak Burger is a car meetup place around town.
Very much so. And Kerry Kirkley, who runs Showplace Classics, has got a very, very good relationship with them. They help each other. And if you go to the meet, you also get a little ticket from Kerry for a discount inside Freddy's to eat.
Well,
so I think you get 10% off, which is.
So if you're a Freddy's customer and you're looking for a car thing that's going on there, just ask them.
Well, I'm sure because I've been to the one at 1960 and the one at Kirkendall a couple of times, and just the fact that there's a bunch of cool cars there, a bunch of other people just pull in, they park. I think they generally go in and eat something in Freddy's and then come out and wander around the cars, hopefully not spilling their ketchup and mustard all over your car.
That's always a good thing. Thank you for not spilling the mustard off of your hot dog.
There's a place to go with that, and I won't.
Good. Calling all car, truck, and Jeep clubs. We love to feature your bunch in our Car Club Spotlight. Just shoot us an email, info@inwheeltime.com, and please include your contact information, and we'll get your bunch on the In Wheel Time show. Our show continues after a quick break, I think.
Don't you have a sound?
Yeah, do I?
There's no greater pain a parent can suffer than losing a child. And yet, heat stroke deaths in hot cars are on the rise. The temperature inside a vehicle can reach deadly levels in just a few minutes. Leaving windows cracked does not help. These preventable deaths can occur even when the outside temperature is as low as 57 degrees. Never leave your baby or child in a vehicle, even for a short period. And always check the back seat before you get out of the car. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
NASCAR Short Track Racing returns this Saturday night. Advance Auto Parts presents a short track showdown at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 6. Commemorative Air Force flyover and racing get the green flag at 7. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beer, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch NASCAR home track racing at its best. Advance tickets are online at NASCARHouston.com this Saturday night at Houston Motorsports Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a paperwork nightmare here at the In Wheel Time show. You know, I was, and I told you this, I was feeling a little nervous about today's show for some reason. Well, guess what? Now I know why.
Well, just listening to the commercial just before we came back on at Houston Motorsports tonight, you're going to be the pace car driver driving the In Wheel Time 2001 Corvette.
Well, at least that is the plan. I haven't talked to Gina since I
Well, you could socially distance in the Corvette, especially now that the air conditioning system's working. Thank you, James Bragg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the air conditioning is working, and I'll have a place to sit. I went through one entire evening. I had no place to sit because one of the gals took the golf cart and never showed back up. So I was kind of
Didn't leave you a chair or anything.
No, nothing. Last week I took a chair and didn't need it because I had a golf cart. Well, 2 weeks ago. Well, of course, isn't that the way that it always works?
Well, it's going to be fun racing tonight. You know, if you're looking for something to do, get yourself out to Houston Motorsports Park, which is basically Lake Houston Parkway.
North Lake Houston Parkway. It's just the south end of Lake Houston.
And Beltway 8. I mean,
yeah.
It's just west of Beltway 8 and Lake Houston Parkway.
Yeah. And it's a great facility, very kid-friendly.
Dollar beers, dollar Cokes, dollar dogs.
Yeah. You can't.
So bring a couple of bucks and you can eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, and there's social distancing in the stands, so you don't have to worry about it. I mean, there's plenty of room to spread out.
Masks required.
Mask required, and she's got hand sanitizer out there. It's all up and up. And
so you're going to wear your Freddy Krueger's mask, just the whole pull-over thing on your head?
No, I think I'll pass on that. But
gets a little sweaty in there inside one of those latex masks.
You know, I ran across this story the other day. 5 ways that a to-do list can make your time in the garage even more rewarding. And I've been saving this. This is a story from Haggerty that Kyle Smith wrote.
That's Mars.
I know. So we just turned that off. So, and so here it is. Budget your time effectively. Okay? You know, set yourself some time. 30 minutes maybe to get yourself your act together. Is the garage set up to do whatever?
Priority list.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving the garage with a project finished is always better than walking away from a job undone. You remember where you left off, which is a huge problem because when I start a project, something always gets in the way. And the problem is that I get out there, do something.
Squirrel.
Well, it's not that.
Squirrel.
It's the time. But when I get back to it, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, oh, God.
Where was I?
Where did I put the screws to that access panel that I took off? Where's the access panel? It's all of that stuff. So make the project part of the time that you've got actually. Yeah. And if you can't finish it, put whatever else you have going on off for a little while and you can try to get that thing done. Take lots of pictures. Now we've got a cell phone.
Lots of pictures is very, very important.
Yes.
Because then you can see what it looked like before you started and what it looks like after you've done, and then you can also take the pictures of those extra parts you have left over and see if you can figure out where they go.
And by the way, speaking of that, you know, we tried to do a brake job on my daughter's Challenger, and I had ordered the brake parts from Advance Auto Parts based on the model car that she had.
And got the wrong ones.
And I got the wrong ones. They were the correct ones according to Advance, but they weren't. And when we got them, the pads that I had were that big. The pads that were needed were that big. So it was just a mess.
And those things happen, and that's why so many times the parts guys want as much information about the vehicle as they can get.
Right.
You know, because that determines, does it have the upgraded brake system on it? Is it the base brakes? You know, and all of the components that change based on which level of system that's on it. It's not just brakes.
And, you know, really, and you've schooled us all on this, and that is the fact that your VIN number tells the dealer everything that they really need to know.
Most things.
Yeah, most things. Maybe not the paint code.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
Well,
but it tells them, like, for instance, the brakes would be in that.
Yeah, well, it'd give them, in the VIN, it's going to give them the manufacturer, the country of build. It's going to give them the body style. And then within that body style, it's going to give them the trim level of that body style. And that trim level, as that trim level moves up and down, the extra components on the vehicle change. And then after that, it's going to give them what's called a check digit. And then it's going to give them the engine. Then it's going to give them the year model of the vehicle. And then it gives them the assembly plant and then the 6-digit sequential of the build of it. And a lot of times it's within that 6-digit sequential of the build that the parts guy needs to know, is this an early build? Is it a late build? Because somewhere in the middle, the manufacturer changed something about the car.
Right.
And in some instances, it may be that they were carryover parts from the previous year model, or it may be pull forward parts from next year's model. So all of that has a pretty big bearing on it. So if you're going to bring, if you're going to get parts, best to bring the 17-digit VIN with you.
Well, speaking of that, and let's go back to the light bulb thing that I was telling you about that I went through on the Corvette, because I think it was a 4716 bulb, which is an amber bulb, okay? And
a little two-pronger thing.
And it says in the Corvette parts manual, or the owner's manual in the back, gives you the part number. And I pulled what was left of the bulb out of the socket, and right on there it said 4716. Right. So I take it over to O'Reilly.
They don't have a 4716.
They don't have we've got a 3716, and it is an exact replacement. Bring it home, plug it in, guess what? Doesn't work. But I take it back, go over to Advanced Auto Parts. I need a 4716. Oh, sure, we got one right here. Here you go. Bring it home. Boom, it works.
Well, that's probably because O'Reilly was out of 47s, and he wanted to sell you something. So
they had a slot for 47s, but they were gone. If there is a way to ruin Don Armstrong's day, that'll do it. So, lesson learned, if it's a 4716, get the 4716.
Well, yeah, that's why the numbers are on there.
And don't buy Craftsman. Just saying.
Oh, gosh. Well, the other thing is the complexity of going to an Advanced or an O'Reilly's or one of the big parts houses. It also gets complicated going to the dealership. Living in the dealership world for so long, I know what parts I need, and you would think that the dealer parts department would be a little bit more attuned to the brand that they sell. Nah. They hand you the wrong parts all the time. And it's not intentional. It's just either I didn't give them enough information or they didn't ask me the right questions, so we got the right part.
So I was watching Graveyard Cars, which I normally don't do because it's a little bit
showy.
Yeah. And Mark Warman is probably one of the most schooled guys when it comes.
He's a savant when it comes to Mopar products, and being a savant is kind of what makes him a little odd.
And so the story was, last night on the episode that I watched, it was about a model that it was a Dart Swinger, I think it was. And it was only made for 2 years, 71 and 72.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I did not know it either. And it came with these certain engine options and certain transmissions and that sort of thing. Typical car,
and
especially
that's in his head. He doesn't have to go look for that.
Right.
He knows all of those things.
And so it was truly amazing because, as he said, yes, this car came with the big V8, the Hemi. It had a 4-speed, both of which were options, and it was a convertible. The rest of the story was really cool, too, because it was a couple's car, and they lost track of it. They had to sell it. They found it, and he was getting ready to restore it. But he also said because they only made that car for 2 years, even though it was only 2 years, that there was a change in parts mid-year of 72. So the brakes, for instance, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but the brakes, for instance, from the 71 model through half of the 72 model were this. The rest of the brakes from 72 till the end of production of that particular model were different.
And that's where that 6-digit sequential build number has a bearing on it, is because based on that 6 digits, they can tell the time of production of the vehicle and which is it an early production or a late production to know what parts are necessary on it. And then, because for Warman and what he does, he knows if this car was built in February of 72, it should not have any date-coded parts on it that are March of 72. It should all be date-coded stuff prior to February of 72.
The other thing is the to-do list. And,
And he has a pretty strong to-do list on everything.
Yeah.
And when you watch a lot of these shows, they all have a to-do list, whether it's on a piece of paper, it's on a big board.
Or with the hot rod guys, The roadkill guys, they just write it on the underside. They write it on the outside of the hood.
Yeah, or on the inside of the hood. Yeah,
just check it off or cross it off with marks a lot in there. But it was always a to-do list. We need this. We need to do this. We need these parts, et cetera, et cetera. And it's such a huge thing. And you know, I don't believe that I ever had a checklist. I'm going to redo the brakes. And so I went around the car and did the 4 brakes on the old Corvette. Or I'm going to put the high-rise manifold on. That was the task.
Though there was a lot of components within that task, because not only do you put the manifold on, you got to make sure you get the gaskets sealed correctly. Yes. You got to get the distributor set. You got to make sure when you pull the distributor out, you understand where the rotor is pointing and mark that somehow. So when you put it back in, it's in the right spot. And then
I always lucked out somehow in the distributor thing.
Oh, I've messed that up more times than I can think. You pull it out and you're like, oh, I forgot to mark where it was.
Exactly.
So you rotate it around until number 1's at top dead center, and then you got a 50-50 chance of hitting it right. if you don't have the valve covers off. If you got the valve covers off, you can hit it right.
Something else, helping you selling a project car will be significantly easier when you can confidently tell a prospective buyer, I have done X, Y, and Z, but here is a list of the things I know that need to be done to get it to the point that you tell me that you want to take it. With that information, the buyer knows exactly what they're getting into. A project might look like a mountain and actually be a molehill.
Well, when you look at a lot of these high-level cars that we saw in the Magnificent Seven at Autorama, those people have a book of their build. Here's what the vehicle looked like, and here it is each step across the way. The lady with the the green Plymouth Superbird.
Yes, I do. Vividly.
Her book had to be 8 inches tall with all these pictures and each step of the sequence as they restored that car. And then I think it was also the guy with the the gray Vicky.
Yes.
His book was as big, but it also went through like 3 generations of the car's build. And that was actually, that specific car was on Count's Customs.
Oh, it was.
When Danny and he brought the crew to Autorama in Detroit, that car that we saw here, that Vicky we saw here, was in the running for the Riddler in Detroit. And because I remembered the car and I remembered the owner because we interviewed the owner. So, those books are quite valuable to some of those custom builds like that because, a lot of custom builds, there's a lot of custom wiring in it. And if there's photographs of it and data so that whoever the next owner is can go in and have that kind of information.
And, really, it's actually kind of fun to do. If you're an organizer, or even if you're not an organizer.
I'm not organized.
If you have an example of how to organize it, either in a book, underneath the hood, whatever the case may be, you need to do these tasks and you need these parts. It's a whole lot easier if you just keep it in a spiral-bound notebook.
Right.
It's pretty easy to keep up with it, and you have however minimal the record is that you have, at least you have a record of it.
Well, and as you're building something, some things have to be done in sequence. And the notebook keeps you in sequence.
Yes, it does.
You can't put the distributor in before you put the intake manifold on.
I always wanted to do a kit car. One that's all complete in the box. Here you go. Put it together.
Well, we could do that.
No,
You had a kit car. It was a Corvair.
Pretty much. And I've got one out there called a Corvette. Okay.
Well, we could do what the roadkill guys do your Corvette. Just get the Sawzall out.
Oh, absolutely.
Chop it all the way down to a dune buggy.
And a couple of coat hangers and a pair of pliers, and I'm good to go.
Those guys are completely out of their
Hey, I've got to tell you about this really cool podcast that we're going to kind of host, if you will. It is a podcast called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story with host Sonari Glinton. And it is a story that is about 8 episodes long, and we're going to have the first episode coming up on our podcast channels, and I'll give you those in just a second. It's going to be debuting on Monday, August the 24th. and we'll tell you again next weekend about it. But at any rate, it's Monday, August the 24th. The first episode is going to air at 1 p.m. Central Time if you want to do it live on our podcast channels. And, of course, after the initial airing, you'll be able to download it as well. But, got to be first on the block. But I have to tell you, this is such a well-done podcast. Once I started listening to it, I kept wanting to listen to more.
And the timing couldn't be more perfect.
The theater of the mind. This is where old-time radio comes into play. Before there was television, people sat around the radio and listened to the radio and had their own mindset as to exactly what they thought.
Well, you did.
I
always had television. Maybe you had. But that's brought us full circle to the podcast world.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is one that you'll definitely want to listen to either in your car, on your smartphone, or when you get home online. It really is. It's called Bring Back Bronco. And again, you'll be able to get it on all of our podcast channels. And let me tell you, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcasts, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, and you can get access to all of that through inwheeltime.com. So I encourage you, to actually get into this season 1 episode. O.J. Simpson chase happened more than 25 years ago. Still a lot of questions about its impact on the Bronco. For the first time ever, this podcast takes you inside Ford to discover what's happening that night, inside a Ford factory, inside the Ford call center, and inside the chairman's office. Lee Iacocca, guy from the movie Ford versus Ferrari, well, he shows up in this podcast. He wasn't just a Mustang guy. He had a hand in the Bronco, too. And if you're a Ford fan, especially if you're a Ford fan, and especially if you're a Mustang fan, you've got to check this podcast out.
Because there's a relationship.
Absolutely.
There truly is a relationship that a lot of people don't understand between Mustang and Bronco.
Yeah. So it's going to debut Monday, August 24th, 1 p.m. Central. It's a podcast, and it's called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story. New podcast, Rise, Fall, Rebirth of the Bronco, the whole 9 yards. We encourage you to tune in for that. Okay, we're going to have more of the In Wheel Time Car Show coming up right after a quick break.
Dude, you may want to slow down. There's a cop car up there. Hey, man, there's another cop. I'd think about putting your seatbelt on if I were you. And if you could sober up in less than 5 seconds, that'd be cool, too.
As America gets back on the road, a lot of things have changed, but not the need for drivers to be safe. Cops are enforcing traffic safety laws in our community to save lives. Paid for by NHTSA.
It's been one of those kind of off days for me. Needless to say.
It's been an off day for Mars, too.
Yeah. Mars hasn't really said 2 words on the air, but that's...
Well, I think he's still working on trying to get Zoom and all of our guests
I'm saying a lot of things under my breath that you don't want to hear.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Wow, that's scary.
It's all the uppercase marks on the keyboard above the letters.
Oh, yeah.
Stacked together.
Yeah, I got it. Well, at any rate. All right, time now for Konrad's Car Clinic here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. And what you got cooking today?
Well, last week you asked for some information about gas. Gasoline, that is.
Oh, gasoline. That's it. Yeah.
Most gasoline petroleum refineries produce what is actually an unfinished gasoline or the gasoline blend stocks. So a refinery makes gasoline up to a level and then delivers that gasoline to a blending terminal. Now, at the blending terminal is where the trucks come to haul it out. So from the refinery to the blending terminal, generally that is done through pipelines, but not always. So the refinery delivers the blending stock to the terminal, and then the terminal is where they add the additive package that makes it Chevron, the additive package that makes it Texaco or Shell or whatever brand it is, because each of those brands has a little bit of a different additive package that they build in. But it's also at the blending terminal where they add the ethanol. So in Houston, it's required. It has to have, in most places around the country, but not all, it's required that all fuels have a minimum of 10% ethanol added to them. So it's at those blending stations where they add the ethanol. But one of the things you really have to understand is ethanol by itself is 113 octane, but it's also mildly corrosive. So they don't ship the ethanol itself through the pipelines because it would destroy the inside of the pipelines. So most of ethanol is truck
That's
delivered.
exactly what I don't want in my car.
Well, there's a reason for that. But so most ethanol is brought in by truck and blended at these blending stations.
All right.
Or the blending terminals. So now they make the correct blend of additives and ethanol to make whatever brand fuel they want to make. And that brand of fuel, some brands meet this top tier requirement, but not all brands meet top tier. To get to what's considered top tier fuel, it has to have a certain level of each of these components of additives that are in there that do different things. Most of that has to do with deposit cleaning agents, or DCAs, that are in the fuel to help clean the carbon deposits inside. But not all fuels meet that standard. So that's why when you go to the back of your owner's manual, it says use top-tier fuel only. Those brands that are listed do meet that top-tier fuel. But the problem happens with the ethanol that's put in the fuel. So all of these fuels have a minimum of 10% ethanol. Now, I'm not talking about E85. I'm just talking about standard gas that's there. So like I said a couple of seconds ago, ethanol by itself, E100, is 113 octane. Pretty high octane fuel. Yep. Now, the gasoline that you buy at the pump, let's just say you're buying regular grade gas, is 87 octane. So how do they get to 87 octane? They start with 84 octane fuel and add that 10% ethanol to it, and it creates 87 octane. Yep. So that's how they get to that 87 octane, is they start with a sub-octane fuel and boost it with the ethanol. So the problem happens when you get small amounts of water into your fuel system. You know, it only takes 3 tablespoons of water to phase separate, and I'll explain what phase separation is, a gallon of gasoline. So a cup of water will phase separate 12 gallons of gasoline. Now, what phase separation is, in the fuel itself, the gasoline ethanol mixture is fine and it stays mixed together until you add water. And as soon as you start adding water to it, the ethanol and water join together and settle to the bottom of the tank. And what you have above that is this subgrade fuel. So you have this 84 octane. So the next problem is, where does the pickup tube for your fuel tank happen? It's at the bottom of the fuel tank. Depending on how much reserve is built into the tank as to whether or not it's going to suck up some of that bad fuel, or the ethanol water combination that really won't burn inside the engine. So there's things you have to do to make sure that you're controlling the amount of water that's getting into your fuel system. And some of that water gets in there just through humidity. As you open and close the gas tank, you introduce humidity, you get condensation in there. In a lot of instances, when you pull a fuel tank down, there's always a little bit of water in there, which means you're always susceptible to phase separation. The phase separation is where the drivability problems come, but it's also where the corrosion comes from. One of the most common failures of a fuel pump today is corrosion. So when the technician pulls it out of the tank, it's all rusty. Well, how did it get rusty when all I'm putting in is gasoline? It's the corrosiveness of the ethanol and the water combination that creates that. So there's some very, very good water remover products that you can put inside the gas tank that's going to entrain the water, keep it in mixture inside the gasoline, so as you run it, it pulls it out. So be sure you're using quality fuel. I would highly recommend you use a water removing product, a fuel dryer occasionally, just to get that little bit of water that's out of the tank. And you know, I'm a big believer in top tier fuel. There's no reason to use an octane rating above what your vehicle's requiring. So most vehicles are at the 87, but as we get into all of these GDI engines, they're requiring a high test fuel. So
you know, I was going to do some headlines, but I guess I'm not.
Did I go that long?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, you got 3 minutes to do headlines. Go for it.
No, I don't. But because I got to play this first.
NASCAR Short Track Racing returns this Saturday night. Advance Auto Parts presents a short track showdown at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 6. Commemorative Air Force flyover and racing get the green flag at 7. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beer, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch NASCAR home track racing at its best. Advance tickets are online at NASCARHouston.com this Saturday night at Houston Motorsports Park.
Social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Okay, thanks for joining us on today's In Wheel Time Car Show. Time now for some of the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Transportation Department's Office of Inspector General said on Tuesday it would audit oversight of U.S. vehicle safety standards, noting that more than 36,000 Americans were killed in traffic accidents in 2019. The Inspector General's office said it was launching a review of NHTSA's efforts to set and enforce federal motor vehicle safety standards. In March, NHTSA proposed sweeping changes to the U.S. safety requirements to speed the deployment of self-driving vehicles, God help us, without human controls. It proposed rewriting 11 vehicle safety standards that require traditional manual controls by revising the requirements and test procedures to account for the removal of manually operated driving controls.
No steering wheel.
Are you
no
kidding
gas pedal.
me? I'll tell you what.
How?
You take the first test ride, I'll stand back and watch and take pictures. All right. And the saga of Hertz Rental. Hertz Global Holdings seeking a debtor-in-possession financing more than 2 months after filing for Chapter 11 protection, reflecting the reality that it still faces trouble ahead if travel doesn't bounce back. The bankrupt rental car giant said in a regulatory filing on Monday it is looking for new sources of cash with the travel business in a deep slump and proceeds from the sale of its cars going to pay off creditors. 186,000 cars are now going into the used car market. And
it needs it because the used car market and the new car
has been
inventory
decimated.
Is empty right now.
It truly is. And so there is all of that. We're going to have to sit back and wait and see how all of that plays out. Well, that's it for this hour of the In Wheel Time Car Show. We've got another segment coming up.
Oh, my gosh. Can we?